Okay, we are live. Hello and welcome. Today we are hosting our second event in the Women, Water, and Tech Month series. My name is Ashley McManus, and I am the marketing lead at the United States chapter of Women in Tech. So I wanted to kick us off with a little background on Women in Tech in today's event. Our global organization has a double mission of one, closing the gender gap, and two, helping women embrace technology so that we can empower 5 million women and girls across the globe by 2030, meaning 5 UN Sustainable Development Goals or #SDGs. As part of this mission, we are devoting the month of August to look at the intersection of water, women, and technology, focusing on a different angle every week. This week, we're having a panel with women of Well Aware and Well Beyond, one nonprofit and one for-profit working together to end the global water crisis and change the way the water sector works. On this panel, you'll hear from female engineers, coders, and founders as they talk about their work in the water sector and how they are driving global change every day. So also a few housekeeping items before we dive in. We encourage you to say hello, share feedback. Please use the text Q&A. I believe it's on the right of your screen. Any questions today. Our moderator will be fielding questions live towards the end of the event. And I also, before we dive in, I want to show a brief video that highlights the work of Well Aware and their clean water work over the past 12 years. And let me just see if I can make this work. We are loading, and I will show that. Come on, technology. Okay. So with that, it is my pleasure to introduce our moderator and speaker for today, Carice Dacko. Carice is the executive director of the Austin-based international nonprofit Well Aware. Her tenure as intern at Well Aware led her to a full-time position as the organization's director of operations after a career in the biotech industry. Her passion for international development, combined with her commitment to excellence, earned her the most executive leadership position at Well Aware after just 2 years. So, Carice, over to you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Ashley. And thank you to Women in Tech for hosting us today to talk about water project resiliency and how it drives ongoing empowerment for communities. As Ashley mentioned, Women in Tech and Well Aware are both using this month to focus on the global water crisis, women in technology, and how they are playing a crucial role in solving this crisis. Today, we will be discussing the importance of maintenance of clean water infrastructure to keep it lasting and maintain good relationships with communities and to assess results over time. That should be the measure of success, especially for women and girls. We're excited to be presenting today because Well Aware has such a strong track record for system maintenance. So much so that we formed another company that created technology to further support Well Aware system longevity, and also other organizations using our historically successful model. Thank you again. And Today, we are joined by representatives from both Well Aware, the for-profit, and Well Beyond, Well Aware, the nonprofit, and Well Beyond, the for-profit formed out of the nonprofit. Today, I'm joined by Sarah Evans, who you saw in the video. She is the founder and CEO of Well Beyond and the founder and chair of Well Aware. She is a Toyota Mother of Invention, a U.S. Global Leadership Coalition board member, a member of Forbes Nonprofit Council, and contributing author. And her work in international development and the water sector has been featured in New York Times, Forbes, People.com, Parents Magazine, MariaShriver.com, USA Today, and the Chronicle Philanthropy, among many others. Sarah has been in this work for many, many years, and I'm excited that you'll get to hear from her today. We are also joined by Princess Aguna, who joined the Well Beyond team in early 2021 as the team's first full-time software engineer and coder. With a degree in information technology, Princess has been putting her software development and engineering skills to work with various different companies before joining the Well Beyond team. Princess also spends a lot of her time volunteering and advocating for female coders in Africa. Thank you for joining us today, Princess. We're also joined by Meseret Ndale, a fifth-year student at Egerton University in Water and Environmental Engineering. She is from a northern part of Kenya called Marsabit, a marginalized county with scarcity of water and resources. She understands what it means to go without water and walking for miles in search of water and coming back with none. Working with Well Aware and Well Beyond helps her to be the change that she wants to see, and she has experienced the joy that this work has given to these communities. Thank you so much, Meseret, and excited to hear a little bit more from your perspectives today. And then last but not least, we are joined by Catherine Bergman, who has worked for Well Aware since 2013 and was additionally a member of the board for 2 years. She's also a founding technical member of Well Beyond, who is setting a new standard for the water aid industry. Through her professional career as an engineer and her volunteer work in social impact sector, Catherine is pioneering innovative technology to develop a new method for engineering in her field. So thank you, ladies, for joining us today. I'm really excited for this conversation because you all come from such different backgrounds, so it's going to be a fun conversation today. And before we dive into our larger group questions and our roundtable conversation, I want to give each panelist an opportunity to speak about their work. So Catherine, we're actually going to kick things off with you today. Can you tell us a little bit more about how you went from running an engineering company to co-founding a tech company?
Yeah, it's a fun story. I actually graduated with a degree in civil and environmental engineering. And I went on to work at a large firm in structural engineering before starting my own smaller firm in the same field. So throughout that entire time, I was volunteering with Well Aware on the technical team and helping to design and oversee their project work and implementation. So I really have to see firsthand the long-term and life-changing impact that these water projects have within these communities. Not only is the overall health of the community improved when, people are not drinking contaminated water, but as you saw in the video, women and girls don't have to walk as far. Girls are able to go to school longer. Women are able to continue work. The community just develops and thrives as a whole in just so many incredible ways. So, getting to see that firsthand is just amazing. And then, what a lot of people don't know is that, more than half of these water systems that are installed in these regions are failing within the first year of implementation. So, not only is that devastating to the communities who lose their only source of water, but also billions of dollars are being spent, getting these systems to work and just being wasted. So, also what people don't know is, how this technology is just rapidly growing and expanding. And that, more people in Africa have access to a cell phone than they do access to a toilet. So, that's when kind of Sarah and I realized that we wanted to change this industry as a whole and help, the sector grow and develop and put that technology and use that rapidly developing technology to put the, water system maintenance, the training, the troubleshooting, the diagnostics, right into the hands of the community members that are using the systems. So we decided to build an app. That's where, these amazing women all come in and help us do that. But that's why we created Well Beyond, to help address this, sector issue as a whole, and maintain these water systems and improve the lives of these communities long term. So that's when, I pivoted from full-time engineering and started doing Well Beyond and working with these incredible women every day. That's great.
Thank you, Catherine. Yeah, I mean, you've been around, probably one of our longest running technical team members at this point, and especially engineer. So it's been really fun to watch you go from volunteer to tech team member to founding this tech company with Sarah. So thank you for telling a little bit more about what you do, and excited to continue this conversation you've started later on. I know we've got some really exciting stuff to talk about, and how Well Beyond is helping to grow the sustainability model. But before we get to that, Meseret, I'm going to jump to you. So really excited to hear a bit more about your story. In your bio, you mentioned that when you were younger, you actually had to walk for water. You've done this. You are now helping to fight against what you had to do when you were younger. So excited to hear about that. I have a feeling that plays into what I'm about to ask you, but you're going to school for water and environmental engineering. Can you tell us a little bit more about what sparked your interest here and what made you go to school for that?
Thank you, Caris. Why I chose water engineering is because I grew up in a community that is a region that is located in semi-arid part of Kenya, and it has shortage of water, and the little rainfall that falls in those regions are not collected because the communities there don't have access to storage facilities. So, and the water we used to drink in these places from the mud dams, and some are from the shallow wells. And this water is not safe for the human consumption. And so these people have many infections, diseases from drinking such water. So the pursuing water engineering was the only option for me to change the livelihood of these people. And the reason I took the course is that only 15% of students in Kenya are female who are taking engineering course. And during this period, before I joined, I heard many voices telling me that this one is not meant for ladies, this one is hard, you can't do sciences. I became deaf to those voices and took the challenge, and I'm going to move it forward. And I want access to clean water be a right to everyone in the world, whatever your location, whatever your social standard is. Everyone has a right to have access to clean water. So, and I also want to change the mentality of people that women are not supposed to be in science fields. Science is for people who are curious. As long as you're curious and you want to have the facts in your hands, then you can come to a science field to get all your curiosities answered. So as a challenge, I took that, and I also reach girls at a personal level and encourage them with my story so that they can be a change we've always wished for. Just to close this, they told me you can't make it. They told me it's difficult. They told me you are not strong enough, but I didn't listen, and they hated it. And now they respect me. Thank you.
Meseret, I love that. Thank you for, you just summarized this whole event. We could end it now if we wanted. But I love what you said. You just became deaf to the voices that were saying you shouldn't go into engineering. And I love that, because we need more women in these STEM fields doing this work, because we're up and coming, we're leading the charge, and this is how it should be. So I'm so happy you didn't listen and you went into your field. I think that's so important. And we are so lucky that we're the ones who get to work with you doing this. So thank you for telling a little bit more about your story. That was wonderful.
Thank you too.
Yeah. Princess, I see you're in and out a little, so I'm going to go ahead and go to you. But if you drop, we'll come back to you. But there you are. Okay, awesome. So Princess, we mentioned a little in your bio as well that you're a female coder living in Africa, and in that you spend a time volunteering advocating for other women coders in Africa. Can you tell us a little bit more about first how you got into coding, and then how you're advocating for other women in coding?
Hello everyone, thanks for having me here again. So first of all, my coding journey, I'd say that I was a bit lucky, first of all. So on my 15th birthday, my dad gifted me a laptop, and that was how the curiosity started. I wanted to know everything about the computer. I wanted to know everything that was going on, really. So I went into a tech field. I studied information technology, and when I went into that field, I didn't really know what I was going into until I went there. I remember that in my first class, I cried because everything was just differential calculus, and it wasn't really what I bargained for. So, but some.
Oh no, we lost her. Well, when she comes back, we will jump back because I want to hear the rest of her story. But while we're waiting for Princess to join us again, Sarah, will move on to you, and then we'll jump back. But Sarah, you're the one who started. Oh, here's Princess. Princess, can you hear us? Maybe she might be coming back in. Princess? Okay, we're going to give her a minute. Sarah, we'll let you talk. So, Sarah, this is all because of you. You started well aware. You started well beyond. You've had people joining the journey along the way. We're all here because you encouraged us all to join. So definitely want to hear your story, but specifically, a few years back, we're talking about this for-profit that you and Catherine started. That was after 10 years of running a successful nonprofit. So can you tell us a little bit more about why you decided to start a for-profit company after 10 years in the nonprofit space?
Besides the fact that I'm just a little bit crazy.
Besides that.
We got so excited about creating the model in the nonprofit that was working so well, and just really honoring the communities and our commitments to these communities. But we continued to see all around us the failure that Catherine mentioned everywhere else, most other places. And we started to realize that, hey, maybe we can, well, a couple of things. Maybe we can take what we know, what we've learned, what we've kept our ears open to hear, combined with also, as Catherine already mentioned, the rapidly expanding availability of internet connectivity and cell phone coverage, and put this expertise and knowledge into the hands of the people who are actually using the water system, because that makes the most sense. They are most familiar with the system. They are most invested in seeing that the system lasts. And they are perfectly capable of navigating most of these issues on their own. So it's definitely been a labor of love and lots of long days and nights and years. But we've just known that it's going to be, and already is, so very important for well aware and also for other people with whom we can share this tool, because we don't have to spend a lot more money in the water sector to fix these issues. We just need to spend it differently, and our focus should be different. And Chris, you said it best. So we really, our focus for measuring success of this work that we do, it needs to be the results over time. Just because you put in a water system and a day later you take a pretty picture, that doesn't mean that you succeeded. It just means that you completed the first step of a long-term commitment. Yeah, we're working hard to get this tool into as many communities as we can, continue to improve on that tool, and very excited to see how we will continue to improve, add new features, and get all that data into the hands of anybody who wants to see it, so we can all further improve on our processes and do better projects, do better work.
I love it. Thank you so much, Sarah. Yeah, it's been an exciting journey to watch Well Beyond grow. out of Delaware and building out together how these two companies work together and how we're continuing to use this technology with other organizations as well. I think it's beautiful. I'm just excited to see where this all goes over the years, and hopefully we get to come back and tell that story again in 10 years. So, but thank you for everything. And Princess, are you back now? Can you hear us okay? Might still be having some technical issues with Princess. But I do want to let her finish her story. Maybe we can loop back at the end if she's able to jump back in. But thank you everyone for taking a little bit of time, telling us a little bit more about your story beyond what your bio tells us. That's always the best part of these conversations. So now let's roll into the piece I am most excited about today. It's our roundtable discussion. And this is where our panelists, I'll ask our panelists some critical questions about women in technology, as well as our water system resiliency and ongoing maintenance to empower communities. So for all our panelists, I want you all to know this is a conversation. We want to hear from all of your different perspectives here and the different experiences that you're each bringing to the table. So feel free to jump in, chime in. I'll throw the first question at someone, but conversation between you and your expertise. So first question, and Sarah, I'll let you kick off on the first question. It's kind of a big one, so get ready. But first, how has Delaware managed to maintain such a success in water system infrastructure sustainability over the past 10 years? And how is the creation of the Well Beyond app playing into maintaining that success? Now there's a part two, specifically, how will the app further improve the long-term success of clean water infrastructure in last mile communities?
Yeah. So, well aware ended up creating this model. How did we create it? There are a lot of different factors there, and of course, as you might imagine, we get this question all the time because it's not very common. An international NGO in infrastructure specifically can claim that kind of success. What happened in the early days? Well, those of us that were around in the early days, we used a lot of our instinct, and like I said before, we used our ears, because we knew we weren't going to go into these communities and try to tell them what to do, even the expertise that happened to be there, because the communities knew full well what they needed, what their plans for development were, and how they were going to best succeed with the new source of water. So we listened a lot, and we took as much time as was needed, and still do, understanding those plans so that we could plug in only the resources that they lack and that they want and they need to leverage. Shortly after that, though, we did a study on several different broken water systems in Kenya, and we found that the number one reason for failure was a lack of technical planning and oversight and follow-up, and that can be like anything from the location of where the borehole is going to be, to how you design the casing that's going to go down hole while you're watching the drill happen. And then also how you size the pump, where you hang the pump, where you put the water storage. It's a lot more complicated when you're doing these large scale community-wide systems, which is what Delaware focuses on. And so that was the number one reason for failure in our study. A very close number two, though, and they overlap a lot, is we identified a lack of real community partnership, which is specifically training and respect and listening and delivery of information that is critical to make a system last. And so around that knowledge, we built a model that would address what we knew would be most likely to make a water system fail. And so we studied failure, and we came up with how we were going to succeed. And that's not to say, though, that we don't continue to learn all the time. Things will continue to go wrong, and new things will be available. New technology comes up. So we're always keeping our eye on those things as well, so we can know how we can continue to always improve. We're not going to get to a point where we just have figured everything out and cracked the code. And we're aware of that. And I think that awareness is important too. Mm-hmm. Speaking of codes, so the app is really cool. How the app plays into supporting Well Aware and further improving our maintenance and operations, especially as we continue to scale and we have more and more projects every year on the nonprofit side. We do need a better system to be able to track the maintenance, track the repairs, track the performance of the boreholes without needing somebody physically present to collect that data. So the app is sort of handling a lot of that maintenance in place of someone physically being able to be there, which we all know now is a pretty important thing to be able to do anyway, with the inability to travel during a pandemic. Whatever else might be happening in the world. And at the same time, then really empowering these communities to fix things and maintain things on their own. Because the more you upkeep things, the better they're going to last. It's just like an automobile. You can't just expect it to drive forever without tending to it. But it also makes the most sense that the person driving the car is the one aware of these things and not some stranger on the other side of the planet, right? So this app is really helping to improve all of those things within the maintenance and diagnostics and system longevity that we are pretty good at.
I love it. I mean, it just makes so much sense it's putting more ownership into the hands of these communities. And that's, like you said, Sarah, they know best. It's their system. They're going to be the most invested. So let's empower them further to take care of these systems and give them that tool to do so. So I love it. You did mention, maintenance diagnostics. Catherine, since you helped co-found this and build out the app, could you explain a little bit more to us the difference between maintenance diagnostics, what that means for communities and what that looks like to them?
Yeah, definitely. As Sarah said, we have studied failure a lot. We are not new to that word, but we also, want to make sure that these systems are lasting and long-term for these communities because it's so important to them and their livelihoods. So, a lot of the times what we were finding on the technical side of things is that, little things that were breaking on these systems were simple things like the float switch was stuck in the wrong position, or there was a leak in the pipe, or the solar panels weren't cleaned off. Just really simple things that can easily be, helped with a simple maintenance checklist, or walking through a community member on, identifying where a leak is and repairing that. So really putting just our technical knowledge into the hands of these community members who are using the system. And not only, do they get to fix the system 10 times quicker than they would if they were having to call someone out there and make a trip and pay money to potentially not have a solution. They're able to just diagnose these problems on the field right there with online chat support from us if they need anything, and really put that knowledge into their hands. So next time something does go wrong, they know about it and they can teach the other community members, how to maintain these systems and keep them up and running, as long as possible.
I love it. Yeah, it's just, again, I love the system here and how it works. And there's checklists, right? That the community gets pinged when just for system upkeep when there's not an issue, right? And that will help with the long term and less, breaks or anything wrong down the road. Can you explain that piece with the it's like what, every 3 months the checklist the community runs through?
Yeah, and it's all customizable to each community's system. So, some things need to be changed every 3 months. Some things need maintenance every 6 months to a year. So it's all really customizable to these communities and their systems. But whether that be, changing a filter to make sure that their water quality stays good, or like I said, cleaning off a solar panel, or just checking that, the tank isn't leaking and everything's in good working order. All of those things really add up and help prevent, future issues down the road. And so they won't be spending lots of money on replacing things, and they're updating it instead. So.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's more on the proactive side of things than reactive, which I think is a really cool feature of this app. And we've talked a lot about the deployment of this app. And I know, Meseret, you are heavily involved in the actual physical deployment. So can you tell us a little bit more about what that looks like when you are going into communities and helping onboard them into the app. I would love to hear your perspective from, being on the ground and doing the active deployment there.
Okay, thank you, Caris. We've gone to different communities to teach them on the use of the app, so that when no one is there to check their systems, they can do it themselves and then tell us what is the problem with the system. And the first time you tell them about this, and you tell them, when you use this app, and you don't have to wait for us to come, there are simple things that you can do it yourself. They're like, thank you so much. We've been waiting for such a thing for long. So they are so happy. They receive it so well. And I know it's going to go far with the working with the system workings. So also there's a community in Sikizana. It's a children's home. And when we went there, actually, it was my first time to deploy the app there. So they were so happy and everything went well. I think the app is a good thing to do. And people there, in this country, we have, people don't use so much of don't make use of their phones so much. But if we have such a thing, they get simple skills through the technologies that we have already. They have the smartphones, we have the internet. So this system, the app, they can also learn the simple skills like the maintenance of the water systems. I think that is one thing I also like about the app and the deployment of it.
That's awesome. And I know we've been actively deploying. It's kind of been in beta over the summer. So how many well-aware communities have we now deployed the app in? Anybody have that number off the top of their head?
30-ish. Yeah, we have to go look at our log.
It's amazing. But it's a quick, easy process. I mean, Meseret and one of our engineers on the ground in Kenya, y'all have been actively deploying, and we haven't been doing it that long, on the ground with this specific feature, and it's going so fast, and it seems like communities are adopting it really well, which is always wonderful to hear, and already getting this amazing feedback, which is really amazing. So I know Princess is kind of in and out right now. Princess, can you hear us at the moment? I'd love to pull you into this conversation.
Right now, yes, I can.
Awesome.
Sorry about the interruptions.
No worries. And just while we've got you, I'd love for you to finish your story about how you got into coding, how you're advocating for female coders, and then talk a little bit more about helping to build out this Well Beyond app in the back end, and what that's like for you, and how it's different from maybe work you've done before. You're muted right now, Princess. Can you hear us okay still? Well, that internet, it's just not cooperating today, but that's okay. So we can let Princess speak to this too, since she's doing the actual building in the back end. But Sarah and Catherine, would love to hear from you guys, because we've mentioned how other organizations can use this app, right? So and the app is very customizable. So what are some other features y'all have been building out for other organizations doing either similar or different work from WellAware?
Yeah, well, we realized back last summer when we modified the app a little bit to deploy critically needed COVID training and information into these last mile communities, how well the training modules worked within the product we were already building. And it was a good success. So we thought, well, there are all this other information that is going to be so important to these communities and to the sustainability of the infrastructure, because there are lots of variables to success. It's not just a great water well or a great community. There are lots of different layers to that, and real prosperity in communities. One of the biggest ones, and right on topic here, is, and Meseret talked about it, the impact on women and girls. They don't have a reliable source of water. And the lack of information around sanitation and hygiene once they have started their periods, because they have just historically not been going to school when there's no sanitation and hygiene available. and then they get behind and they drop out. And that's that. I didn't know that stat matters at 15% of students in Kenya are female, only 15%. So proper training on feminine hygiene and reproductive health is also really, really important. And so we are building that into our app in training modules and chat support with a really great partner that we have on that. Because again, we're not experts on that, but we know wonderful people who are. And so that's going to be part of it. And then, Catherine, we have some other training things too. I just can't remember.
Yeah, we have a water committee training.
Yes.
So, how to run water systems and committees. I think that we have a slippery slope of so many different things that we want to include into the app and partner with other organizations.
The princess is on the call, but she'd say, yeah, they're scope creeping.
Yeah.
Well, you have this amazing tool. You want to be able to put everything in it. It makes sense. But sorry, Catherine, I feel like I interrupted you. You were mentioning a few other things.
No, you're good. Just all the trainings. And then, we also kind of have started including, field reporting and all of that kind of stuff too, so that, we can get a really global look at a water system on all aspects of it, any maintenance that's been done, site visits, reports, all of that stuff. So you get really a full profile of the whole community and the system.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love it. And I know we've talked about putting, WellAware does impact measurement and evaluation prior to clean water being available in the community. And then we do it again, 1 or 2 or 3 more times to track those stats over time. And we're going to get to build that into the app, which I'm so excited to see. You'll have pretty charts and graphs right away. So I love that we're getting to build out this tool with Well Beyond and continue to add features. And poor Princess, I know she's getting really put to work and telling us we're doing too much, but I think it's going to be such an important tool for these communities to have. And Sarah, you mentioned during COVID how we were using the tool for WASH. Can you tell a little bit more about how we got there? Well Beyond's timeline with the app prior to COVID, and then the changes that were made last year to accommodate and be able to work with our communities.
Yeah. And it's something I haven't mentioned enough yet is just, how incredible our team is, especially with change management and working through a crisis and working through something fast and on the spot, but with care, a lot of care. And so what, Catherine and I were flown home out of East Africa in early March. And we, pretty quickly realized that we were going to run into a lot of obstacles in the plans that we had made as a nonprofit and a new startup company. And then we had built built all the foundation of the product, of the tool. We just hadn't yet gotten into fine-tuning the maintenance and diagnostics part, which we thought, Chris, you and I and Catherine, we all just sort of brainstormed, and we thought, well, WellAware is unable to do our project implementation work at the same time because it's the same way that we had before. And then it just occurred to us, what we can do? We have this tool. People have phones. It was already set up for deployment. It works fully offline. Live chat support was ready. We worked with our local Kenya community team quite a bit, understanding what information was lacking, how we needed to frame the training and the modules, and and it wasn't just information either. It was literally like how to build a sink and how to make your own soap and resources and chat support. And within a few weeks, we were able to deploy that tool into a lot of the WellAware communities, and we're very grateful that we were able to do that. It was largely by chance, but also with a lot of hard work.
Yeah, I remember, obviously everyone, I think, will always remember kind of where they were and what they were doing when COVID first hit. But I don't know what we would have done had we not had this tool to be able to get this information into our communities. We weren't sending our Kenya team into the field. Everyone was locked down, so we were like, what do we do? So I think about it often about how lucky we were that we had this tool to use, and that it was at the point where we could start building out the WASH training. So that was always always something we'll remember, and a really interesting and unexpected start to the deployment of the app.
Yeah.
But Catherine, you were involved obviously in that. Can you tell us a little bit more about onset of COVID, pivoting the app to Wash? I think that's before y'all had Princess as well. So what was that like, having to really just change up the whole model on the turn of a dime?
Yeah, I mean, as Sarah mentioned, it was a lot of incredible work by the whole team, everyone kind of working together to figure out what we needed to do. But, I think it really helped, develop and get to where we are now with really cool features that, may not have happened if COVID didn't happen. Not that I want it to ever happen again, but, really great things did come out of it, and we were able to pivot and really put it into high gear and launch it into all of these communities that really needed the information. So it was really cool to see. And also, how quickly the communities were able to, adopt the technology and use it, and, on the back end, exactly, who's been training, and asking the questions and getting to communicate with them still from, a world away was really great.
Yeah. All in one place. Yeah. We discovered it was really a pretty cool tool, and had a proof of concept. Catherine and I were in an accelerator program during all of this, GSBI Miller Center, and really incredible program, incredible mentors. And I remember telling them, hey, we're going to pivot. We're going to do this other thing after we'd already built our business model and all of that kind of stuff. And they're kind of like, are you sure? But then we
thrilled to hear that.
I think they quickly realized they were going to change our minds, and got really, really supportive, and we're very pleased with the results, obviously.
Awesome.
But that was interesting. I'd forgotten about that.
That was a good one.
Well, yeah, thank y'all for talking a little bit more about the pivot last year. And Meseret, I'm sorry, I don't remember exactly when you started with us, but I would love to hear a little bit more from you on, you went to school for groundwater engineering, and now you're deploying an app. So can you talk about what you thought you were walking into? Can you talk a little bit more about any other work you're doing with both organizations beyond app deployment? Would love to hear a little bit more on your journey, and if you thought if this is what you expected as an engineer.
Thank you. You see, these systems will not work without the maintenance. So if we have the systems, the water systems, and there is no maintenance being done to them, then there is nothing we are working on. So the app is a good thing that came into the engineering world to solve the problem, because all these systems usually fail because they don't have proper maintenance. And what was the other question?
Yeah, just if this is what you expected coming in, with your degree, with these two organizations, and any other work you're doing with us beyond app deployment.
Okay. With WellAware, I usually go to project sites. I do the oversight of the work being done at the site. I write reports. Also, I help in the design work. If I'm being consulted, I help on the area of design. And also the deployment, the app deployment. We go to the sites and teach people on how to use the app. Yeah.
Yeah. We keep you very busy, I know.
Yeah, but it's fine. It's for the good cause.
And Meseret, remind us again, how did we get connected with you? I think it was through another organization, right? I know Sarah.
Yeah.
Jenny, it was Jenny Lowry.
It's through Jenny, yeah.
Yes, and it was during COVID, like in the very beginning of it. I was talking to Jenny about like really trying to find somebody in water locally, ideally a female, right? Because we can identify issues a little bit better as it relates to females. And she said, I have the person for you. And we talked maybe once, and I said, yeah, please come join us. Because you're amazing. That's just so
right away.
Yeah, I'll
Thank
come
you.
in and say, gosh, Meseret has been, crucial in every aspect of these water projects, from the beginning and design to implementation to oversight to being on site when they're replacing pumps, to the app deployment. She really does it all. So Meseret, you've been amazing.
You may be watching.
Thank you for having me.
True. And on that note too, 10 years of nonprofit, well aware 100% success rate, Sarah, and then you created Well Beyond. So I would love to hear a little bit more about what was done on the maintenance side of things. How did we keep up with that prior to the app? And I know you've mentioned now that we have so many projects, the app is extra important to be able to keep up with that many. But in the early days when there are less systems, what did the ongoing maintenance piece really look like?
Even with the app, it is still critically important to do proper training during implementation. So that the people who will be tasked with making sure the water system remains running and functioning well, that they are fully trained and given all of that information. Now, the thing about that, though, is the water committee and the people who are on the committee to make sure the system stays up and running, don't always stay in the community. So there's a lot of turnover. So it's so very important to be able to have that ongoing maintenance. And with the app, as a user, you can pass off your user permissions to the next person who's going to be in that role. And then we still have a log and a record of everything, which is great. Before the app, we focused a lot on training these communities during implementation. And then also our growing staff in East Africa remained available, and they still are. Meseret and Dennis will continue to field chat support requests via the app, and still run around and do site checks. We'll still do that. But in the past, someone would just pick up the phone and they would call Mike, our only project dude, for a long time. He'd just jump in the car and he'd go check it out, or he'd hop on the phone with the supplier and get some information and call him back, or head out there, bring someone with him that would know what they were doing. And so for a while there, Mike was just in the car all the time, driving all over East Africa. And there's only one of Mike. Now we have a lot more staff, but now we can still do those things at a decent pace, while also remaining, continuing to receive all of that information and that data and remote support. So yeah, we can't run around so much anymore.
I know there's too many projects. It's a good problem to have. And yeah, on that note, Sarah, we still have our team in Kenya. Obviously, we've got team members on the project side and team members on the community side. And I was actually on the phone with our community team this morning, and they were telling me about a few communities where the committees have newly elected members, so they're ready to get out there and do some new training. So the on the ground work is still happening. It's going to work well hand in hand with the app, and excited to see that. So awesome. Well, I know we're getting close to the end of our time here, and this event will cut us off right at the hour. Before we get to any questions that might have come in, though, I do want to loop back to one more question that I'm going to ask each of you to answer. It's technically a lightning round, but we've got a little wiggle room here on time, so feel free to dive a bit more into the answer. But the question I have for you guys is, what is your favorite failure? So maybe a failure you've gone through that's helped you grow the most, or an experience you've had that you really learned from and took it to the next level. So Sarah, we'll start with you, then we'll do Meseret, and then Catherine.
I have so many failures. It's really it's a big one, but I'm proud of that. I have a 9-year-old daughter, and I tell her that the failure is really cool because you get to learn and improve. But okay, so I'll answer your question. I'm gonna pick dropping out of engineering school when I was in college. I changed majors. I didn't drop out of school. I was making good grades, but I didn't have the self-awareness that Meseret had as a young woman. And that's a real shame. I'm so proud of you guys that you have that voice. It took me a long time to find mine. And I got intimidated out of that engineering program because I was the only woman. in it, and I just dropped out because I didn't think that I had it in me. So Meseret, you inspire me so much. I'm trying to raise my daughter differently, and I know better now. But I will say that had I continued on, I probably wouldn't be here today in international development. And I probably wouldn't feel so fierce about not being that way anymore, because I won't say I regret it. I don't say I regret it, but I was very disappointed in myself, and I'm not going to let that happen anymore.
Yeah, I was going to say exactly what you said, Sarah. Had you not done that, you might not be here today. So never regret, just learning from our I guess you call it a failure. I wouldn't really call that a failure. It's a stepping stone. But thank you for that. And I always forget you started out as an engineer. I know you're a recovering lawyer, as you call yourself, but I always forget about the engineering part. Thank you. Meseret?
For me, many will call it a failure, but to me, it's a disadvantage. Because in 2015, I was called to join Egerton University, but due to I joined the school, yes, but due to financial crisis, I couldn't go on with my studies. So I had to defer for one academic year. So this time that I went home, the other students were going on with their classes and I'm out of school. And it felt really bad, but actually it taught me a lot. It made me have more zeal for education, and it also made me come out more determined. And during this period, I learned how to be dependent on myself, learned that the choices I make in my life, they have equivalent consequences on me. So I had to learn to make good choices in my life. And this is why right now, like, as I'm going on with my studies, I really advocate for girl child education, and I will always, always fight for that, because I don't want any girl to be left out because of any kind of reason whatsoever. Is it water? Is it menstruation? Whatever it is, I don't want any girl to be left out, because that time I was at home, I learned the importance of education, and everyone has the right to get to that.
Yeah,
I love that, Meseret. Thank you. And selfishly, if you hadn't deferred for a year, you might not be with us today. And I'm happy that you're working with us, and you're just so inspiring. So I can't imagine this team without you. So thank you so much for that answer. Catherine?
There's, like Sarah, I feel like there's so many, but both Meseret and Sarah said they're all kind of learning and stepping stones and get you to where you are now. I think that there's been so many times where I've felt like stuck, or at a point where I didn't think that things were going to work out, or just so many times when you're not on the right track. But I think that, reaching out to other women and leaders and people in the industry, and just, knowing that there's so many people out there to help and support you and have your back through, everything that you're doing, is a really hard lesson to learn, to ask for help. But I think that is one of my biggest lessons in all of this.
Yeah, that's a great one, Catherine. And I feel like we all talk about this all the time. Ask for help, it's okay. And once you learn that, you're gonna make it doing whatever you're doing. So I love that one. Thank you so much.
And Catherine, like Willowware wouldn't exist if I hadn't just asked for help all over the place. I don't know what I'm doing. Who wants to help with this thing?
With above and ask Sarah, we could probably ask Princess to do that.
And I am sorry that Princess dropped and wasn't able to be a part of this, as much a part of this conversation today, but I know we'll have more opportunities for people to hear from her. But we did get one question I want to get to before we wrap up here today, and we'll make this a lightning round. I think this is a great one. So knowing what you know today about gender, what would you say to your younger self or other young women looking to follow a similar career path as you? And one or two sentences. Meseret, would you like to kick us off with this one?
I will want to tell my younger self not to listen to anyone who says that you can't do it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I did.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, I was going to say, I would say what Mesert has already said. Just be deaf to that negative feedback. Don't listen. That's amazing. Why didn't I think of that?
Yeah, I agree. That's the same thing. Just don't get intimidated and stay the course.
I love it. Well, thank you guys, and I will forth behind you guys. It's, you know, you can do whatever you want. Don't listen to anyone. And every career path is a woman's career path as well. So I'll pass it back to Ashley in just one second, but just wanted to thank you all for listening to our conversation today, to Women in Tech for hosting us, to all of our panelists for being a part of this amazing conversation. I wish we could keep going. And I do just want to say that, like I mentioned before, Well Aware is using August Water Month to highlight our 100% success rate, what sets us apart as an organization. And we are asking people, if you feel like you'd like to support this work, we do encourage you to look into and join our village. Those are monthly recurring donors who not only support our projects up front, but the ongoing maintenance and continued success of these systems that we've been talking about during this whole conversation. So I think it was put in the chat, the links to both Well Aware and Well Beyond Site. Go take a look, learn more about our work, and reach out if you ever have any questions. And with that, I'll pass it back to Ashley to close us out today.
Awesome. Well, again, I would love to thank all of our amazing panelists and lovely moderator for taking the time today to speak on this super important topic. And we are also appreciative of all of you joining our discussion today on water project resiliency and how it drives ongoing empowerment. We hope you learned something new and are motivated to put it into action. I will highlight, I just dropped in the link to what Rusi was talking about. So if you'd like to get involved during the month of August, we invite you to join the village, which is Well Aware's group of recurring donors. You can do that at wellawareworld.org/August. And you can also register for our next event, The Power of Women in Water Intelligence, which is next week, Thursday, August 24th at 11 a.m. Eastern. You can register at womenintech.org/events. And for the rest of August, we'll continue to share insights and information on water awareness from all of our water partners. So follow us on social to stay informed. And that's it. So thank you all again, and have a wonderful day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Just click switch.